over 100 lakhs. They're making 1 crore plus, right?
People make a mistake that they do not consider a lot of companies.
Most important vector is where are you working? Who are you working for? Maybe just don't even do that. Think about other strategies. So
Hello PMs, aspiring PMs and product builders. We have Akash today with us. So Akash built a really strong, a very exhaustive report on how much do product managers across the levels make in India. And when we were going through this particular report, we were able to find that there is a lot of deviation, as in some people in the same position are making, let's say, 15 lakh rupees, and some other people in the same position with a similar kind of experience are making, let's say, 45 lakh rupees. So we thought rather than just giving you the numbers, we should give you some kind of actionable information so that people who are at the lower end of the funnel could see how they can get to the next bucket. So that is why I have brought Akash today, and we'll make sure that we are talking in detail about how you can go ahead and maybe skyrocket your career as a product manager. So no matter what kind of position that you are in as a product manager right now, I'll make sure that I'm asking all of these questions to Akash so that I can get, or we can get, some insights together. And guys, understand that all of this is not coming from some kind of bookish knowledge. Akash has been in product management for a much longer period of time. So we'll make sure that whatever we are telling you is coming from some kind of expertise and from the detail, like 1100 people who have participated in the report. We'll make sure that those things are also get counted into. So thanks a lot, Akash. Thanks for being here.
yeah, thank you. And it's definitely an overstatement to say I created this report. I think Ankit helped recruit all of the survey participants. And most importantly, when we were analyzing the data, I leaned on Ankit's expertise to say, hey, this data point, they must have had a typo. Here, we need to look into it. Here, we need to remove the data point. So we actually pruned the data to make sure that it is the high quality, correct data that matches with the on the ground knowledge. Because obviously I'm sitting here in America, so I may not have the first-hand knowledge. I mainly coach people who are seeking jobs in India. So that's my window into first-person data. And then we collected the survey data.
Yes. I think, and the pruning actually made the report what it is right now, because I have been getting like these personal messages from people over WhatsApp who have worked at Meta, Microsoft, Jubilant, and like senior product leaders over there, that this is the most accurate report that we have seen so far, which is like about the practicality of the markets and not inflated, not deflated, and does not inspires like everyone to go ahead and become a product manager and things like that.
Yes, that's what I heard as well.
Yes.
I had a lot of people DM me and mention that, there's this report out there that they felt was too high end. They felt that ours was accurate. Then I had a couple of people come in and say, hey, what I liked most about your data is that it showed that in 2021, 2022, that data we were seeing, that was just bonkers. And
Too
now
much.
here's the
That was too
reality in
much.
2024. So I think that's where we can kind of help correct what you were seeing online. Maybe you're seeing it on Glassdoor, you're looking at some other website with self-report. A lot of their data points are weighted towards 2021, 2022, and salaries have come down, compensation has come down.
So I think we can go ahead and maybe start with the first question, Akash, and I'll take it from the report that yes, we have seen that there is a benchmark, there is some kind of salary that people are making, but everyone wants to be in the top 10% of the 5% percentile. Okay. So as per you, Akash, what do you think that what does it take for an individual to get into that top 5 or 10% percentile as per your experience?
Okay, so, well, let's start with the data. What did we find from the data? So we basically found that there are 5 critical factors that are going to drive where you land in the percentile ranking. And just to emphasize how important it is to not just consider what your title is or your years of experience, just look at the difference in percentile salaries. So if we look at, let's say you're a senior product manager, the 25th percentile is making 37 lakhs and the 75th is making 62 lakhs. And like you said, if you're targeting that top 10%, they're making over 100 lakhs. They're making 1 crore plus, right? So these are people who are very highly compensated. So what does the data show as to how you might get into the higher percentiles? Well, there's really very predictable vectors that you might see. So the number one most important vector is where are you working? Who are you working for? If they're a Bangalore-based company, US company, or Hyderabad company, you're much more likely to be paid on the higher end of the spectrum. The second is, how many years of experience do you have? If you have more years of experience, you're going to be towards the higher percentile. The third thing is how big and how successful is the company that you're working for. So if you're working at a company with more employees, working at a company with higher revenue, then all of these factors are going to come together. And the last factor that's not represented here is industry. Certain industries like big tech, social media, and gaming pay more than others like e-commerce or financial services. So those are the confluence of factors that the data shows. Now, what does it mean for a PM who wants to move up in the percentile ranking? The number one thing is that a lot of you PMs are working at startups, and you need to move into companies that are making more profits. The more profitable the company you work for, the higher they're going to be paying their PMs. And in fact, if you think about it, the higher ROI they are getting on their PMs. And that is why they can pay this money, because PMs are actually driving bottom line profits. So if you look at the Googles of the world, the Razor Pays, the different companies that are performing at the top of the market right now in terms of financial metrics, they're also paying better. So that is what I'm seeing is the highest leverage area for PMs. The final thing we'll mention too is negotiation. So some of you, and I have to say the data shows the females listening, you guys are shy about negotiating. So you need to use the data that we've just presented to you, and you need to negotiate. That's what, in my experience, I've seen. In America, even, I hired over 60 plus PMs in my career. And I found that there was more room for negotiation than I even understood as a hiring manager. Sometimes my boss would be willing to pay somebody almost, like $5,000 just less than me just to get them if they really liked them. So there's often a lot of room to go beyond even the company's stated band with your negotiation. And if you can bring data to the table, if you can bring leverage in the form of other offers, you're well positioned to do that. What do you think, though? What in your experience of those factors is most important, and how do people really move up?
Yes. I think that's it's important to look at these all the factors, but I believe these are mostly the outcomes of the decision that we make. So I generally what I have seen is that people make a mistake that they do not consider a lot of companies. Okay, so let's say if I'm looking for a job, I'll apply for one company, and then I'm too much into the interview process, and then I only go ahead and get an offer, and maybe I'll go ahead and work for that company. I might maybe start with, let's say, first create a list, first understand what I want, maybe in terms of location, in terms of the compensation that I'm looking out for. Maybe I'll look at the industry that I'm passionate about, because no matter how much the money is, if you're not passionate about the problem that they are solving, maybe you'll not perform as well. And then maybe I'll create a list of companies. Then I'll reach out for maybe referrals, or maybe somebody that I know, or maybe some kind of, let's say, talking to the HRs and all. And then I'll make sure that whenever I get an offer, I should have few of other offers to go ahead and consider from, because that gives me the negotiation power. And also one thing that I have personally used in my career, so when I was looking at a product growth role at this company called IND Money, I understood that. So my friend used to work over there, and he has already told me that they have been interviewing a lot of people in last 6-7 months, and they were not able to finalize anyone. So the problem was that they were looking for someone who knows growth, and they are also coming from a fintech background, and that was a rare move at that period of time. So what I did was, I was not coming from a fintech background, so what I did was I created a 20-25 page report on if I would join the company, this is what I'm going to do. And in the CEO round, I have just gone ahead and presented him that. That is how I was able to go ahead and maybe get into that same role. And I think in the couple of days I was able to get the offer. So I think if you want to be in the top 1%, you have to do something that the top 1% does, which is standing out from the crowd. That might help, and maybe get some more offers so that you can better negotiate.
Wow, that's amazing advice. 100% agreed.
Yeah, correct. So and also Akash, I also believe that whenever you want to, let's say, be in the top 5-10% out there, or maybe the top 1%, you need certain kind of mindset shift, as in how you work, How do you approach problems? How do you look at your career? What are the some of the, let's say, what are the mindset shift that you think one needs in order to be at the top percentile of their category?
I think that some people, you bringing the same tactics that they've always brought and expecting a different result. But I think that what you've highlighted is that, try some non-traditional tactics, whether it's creating the presentation, whether it is acquiring 4 or 5 offers at once, really going hard on your job search. Those types of tactics are very effective to move into this upper percentile.
Yes. I think that's interesting. Maybe also one more thing. Like I think one more problem that we face. Actually, we are, I think, talking with a lot of privilege that we can get so many offers and all. But right now the market is a bit different, and you have written a lot about it. So maybe what are your tips in order to go ahead and maybe crack some kind of at least a screening interview or get to an interview in this particular job market?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is why use the same channel everybody's using that are oversaturated, right? So anytime I see I'll just ask my friends even hey, how are you getting jobs, etc. So anytime I hear 2 or 3 people using something, I might just go ahead and throw that tactic out there. So one tactic everybody's using is they're applying to jobs on LinkedIn. So maybe just don't even do that. Think about other strategies. So I do like to apply to jobs on LinkedIn, but not via LinkedIn. So a job on LinkedIn means the company paid for it because now they don't have the free job listings. And so it means the company is having trouble filling the role. So what I like to do is I like to figure out who's the hiring manager or who's the recruiter or who's my number one guess for that. Can I figure out either one of those? You'll often find if you really read the descriptions of every recruiter. So if you search recruiter within a company, you'll find 25 recruiters. You'll find 15 technical. You click into those 15 technical, you read their social media comments and posts as well as their experience description, and you find out, oh, this is the product recruiter. Boom. Now you found the product recruiter. So now you might hit this recruiter with something like, hey, let me start with a personalized invite because that's free to me, right? So then I have 300 characters. So I have 300 characters to kind of show this person. So I guess that's not too many characters. So let me actually go personalize my profile a little bit. So like you said, it's fintech. So if it's fintech, let me go ahead and just create the best fintech PM profile. De-emphasize all my e-commerce experience, all my SaaS experience, focus on my fintech experience, create some report like you did, create that as my featured content. Now all of a sudden they think I'm a great fintech PM. Okay, so I spent 2-3 hours on optimizing my profile. Now I'm going to write the personalized invite. The personalized invite is going to be something like, hey, I know you're hiring for this role. The reason I think I'll be a good fit is because of my fintech experience, which you can see more of on my profile. Boom, you've now hit 300 characters. You have some good work you've done to show them. And that is much, much more likely to get a response. Now, I just told this tactic on a podcast. Suddenly everybody's doing it. Maybe take a little variation of it. Maybe you find their email via Apollo and do send them an email. Maybe instead of creating a research report on the industry, you just create a little Loom video, 3-minute Loom video to talk about why you're qualified for the role. There's so many infinite variations. So the main thrust of the strategy is do stuff other people aren't doing. There are a million channels to get jobs. Don't think that it's just applying. You can reach out to people. The number one channel for me, historically, everybody knows, is inbound. All my jobs come to me. Basically all my opportunities come to me. You DM'd me once long time ago and we created a friendship that now resulted in this collaboration years later. So you can think about all sorts of different channels. But what about you? What do you see has been most effective for people you work with?
Yes. So I have been working with people across the spectrum. So because I have seen results with different kind of things, this is what I recommend. So this is also the 3-bucket strategy, also inspired from some of your blog posts and all. So what I recommend is go ahead and create 3 buckets. The bucket A is all the jobs that are there in the market. So make sure that you are having a good new account on all the major job listing websites in your country, which is, let's say, Naukri.com for India, LinkedIn for India, InstaHire for India, and maybe other kind of website. All of these websites have a feature of email alerts, so that whenever a new job is coming, you should be able to get updated with that particular job. Because most of the time when HRs are looking for people, they will be like, as soon as possible they send the job, the initial resumes, they will put some extra time in order to go through them. So that is the first thing, that make sure that you have this job alert, so that your top of the funnel is very, very big. And now in this A list, make sure that you are going ahead and, no matter what the company is, go ahead and just apply. Maybe you'll get some kind of chance at the interview. You'll understand why your resume is not getting shortlisted. So if you can, change your resume as per the job description, so that maybe there are more chances. Like, don't lie, but at least whatever you have omitted in order to make your resume one pager, make sure that relevant things you are not removing. So I think that is the A approach, which is go ahead and apply to as many jobs as you can if you think that you have to work over there. The second approach, the second bucket is, now in the second bucket, you should take some companies where you think you have higher chances. Let's say if I am coming from fintech, then maybe fintech company would have a higher chance of going ahead and hiring me. So what you can do is maybe tweak your resume as per the job description that is out there. If you have omitted something, make sure that it is not being omitted if it is that is important. Also make sure that you are writing like a good, decent cover letter to, let's say, some people in the company, including the hiring manager, leadership, and everyone, to make sure that you are telling them that, yes, this is who I am. These are the 3 reasons I am like a good fit for this job. Keep it small and then send it to the people out there. Okay. This will make sure that if you are like good for that job, you are not missing out on just because you have not filled some information. So that will make it like a customized application. And the third is, let's say you still don't get a job. Most of the people who come to us, 80% of them are able to get the job with these A and B buckets only. Let's say you are adventurous. Like one guy who worked with us, like I think a couple of years ago, and he only wanted a job at a particular company because he was very inspired by their product. So what we suggest to the third kind of candidate is, the third bucket is, go ahead, create a list of 10 to 15 companies that you want to work for. And now go ahead, make sure that these companies are not big companies. It could not be a Facebook or Google, because then they have a hiring manager, HR, and so many layers out there, which will not get you, let's say, highlighted. At least in India, I have seen that working in the US, but I'm not sure about India. So what you can do is, imagine that you have already become product manager at one of those companies. Now, if you were the product manager, what would you do in your first 6 months? Articulate that and understand. Trust me, in order to suggest them improvements, you actually don't need to become a product manager. Most of the product managers are relying on the market research, competitive research, secondary research that is anyways available. That also shows them that yes, you are also taking initiatives. So go ahead, imagine that you are already a product manager over there. Create like a good slide deck or an email or some kind of suggestion reports for them that yes, if I were the product manager, this is what I could go ahead and maybe improve. I really see value in your product. Send it to multiple people in the company. Make sure that you are following at least 3 times before you call it a quit. And this I have seen work for almost everyone. And the reason that it works is that, first, it is crystal clear that you know product management or not. Your articulation, the way that you put these models out there, how do you show it to them? It is like crystal clear to them. And the first apprehension, like when I talk to hiring managers, they generally tell me that, boss, we can hire freshers, we can hire people, we want to hire them because they are cheaper, but we are not sure whether they'll be useful. So this document is going to make sure that whether you are useful or not. So this is crystal clear. They will know from your document. The second part is, you are showing your ownership. Most of the companies, what I have seen when they are hiring, let's say new product managers, they generally give you an assignment. Here, what you're doing is proactively you are doing an assignment, and that is for the same company. And the third part is, which is also very important, is that let's say if you send some random case studies or some portfolio to the hiring managers, maybe they are not interested. But if that is about my own company that I work for and it is my company, I'm the founder of the company or a senior PM of the company, I'm particularly interested in reading that email. So if you send it to 10, 15 companies, I can assure you at least 2-4 of them are going to go ahead and reply you and at least got on a call with you. So when I was moving from my startup to like the formal world in 2017-18, I did it for 4-5 companies. All of them called me to their offices. So that has worked with me and multiple other candidates at HelloPM.
100% agreed.
Yes.
Great articulation of the small market job strategy and those A and B buckets. I think that that's the right sort of differentiated way to think about it is, how do you have the right quantity and quality? And where in the funnel is that broken for you? So I'll almost apply, like when somebody comes to me and they say I have a problem, I'll just start with, give me your data. How many I applied to, how many first interview, second interview, homework, final interview,
Yes.
offer. So if you create this funnel and you draw this funnel, just like your product funnel,
Then you
then
understand.
you look at,
Yes.
where is my conversion rate? Where am I currently blocked off? And in terms of the benchmarks are going to be that you should be having at least one interview per day if you're job searching.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you're below one interview per day, you go down the funnel and you say, okay, looks like I'm just not even getting that first interview. This is usually the place where most people are blocked. So then you can
Yes.
say, is it quantity or quality? If it's quality, which it usually is for most people, customize your resume more, do your cover letter, do all these things that Ankit tactically just walked through. But it might be quantity too. If you're doing that, but you're only doing it to one or two companies a week, you might need to
That
do
will
it
not
to
happen,
one or
yes.
two companies a day. So I think that's how people should think about it.
Correct. And that's a story. Like people have came to me and saying that I did whatever you told, and you also reviewed their case study, but the company didn't reply. So I asked them, like, how many companies have you sent to? And they said 2. So I told, no, that's not how it works. You also have to, like, maybe you don't have to apply to as many companies, but at least 10, 15 should be your sample list, because people are busy. Maybe they don't need a product manager at that period of time. So I think, like, you have to, like, combine the quantity. And that's why I tell you to keep 3 buckets. That first is, and 2 is almost everyone. And third is some specific companies, at least 10, 15, which you are interested. And also referrals and your network. And also, like, one more thing that I could add, I would also want to mention is that most of the people, when it comes to asking the referrals and all, they generally jump to LinkedIn and people that they don't know right now. And what I have seen is that no matter what kind of college or alma mater or companies or past companies that you're working in, if you look at your network also very carefully, let's say if I was, like, let's say working or studying in XYZ college, then maybe 4 years senior to me, like, I have so many people who could be working at some of the other kind of companies. If I could just do a good LinkedIn search of my first degree connections, or find people who have the same alma mater or same kind of university or college or same company that I've worked in the past, I could get more referral opportunities, because companies have created referrals so that you can vouch for people whom you have worked with or studied with in the past, and that referrals seem to be working well. So rather than going to, let's say, random strangers on LinkedIn for referrals, maybe you should go ahead and first try your network, which is also unexplored for most of the people.
Yeah, and I would say start with your in-person network,
Yes.
not your digital network. Who are the people who you might even be able to say digitally, let's grab a beer, let's grab a coffee, let's grab dinner, let's have the families meet, or let me see you at the next wedding. Those people, if you can actually talk to them as human first, and then you can come in with the ask, hey, you're working at Microsoft. I'm applying to Microsoft. Can I get your
Yes.
referral? And can I actually just spend maybe 2 minutes also to tell you, like, why it makes sense for you to refer me? Boom. Those cases, I find people, the referral holds a lot more weight, because the person who's
Yes.
filling out the referral, they do it at higher quality. And then B,
Yes.
like, your referral acceptance rate is almost 100%. It's very rare in person, after you've done some work to personally connect with them, that somebody says no.
Yes. Very interesting. Yes. So that also brings me to like the related question, Akash. That let's say we are able to get to the first round, our resume has got shortlisted, our work has got shortlisted. Now we are on the first call with the HR, or let's say someone in the company, for the screening. What are your tips to talk about in that screening call?
So the first thing is that all the questions are known. There's only going to be max 30 questions that they ask you, and both Ankit and I have lists that you can just find online of what these 30 questions are going to be. So it's inexcusable for you to have not at least written down in a Google Doc what you think the 30 responses are going to be. I think furthermore, though, if you have any struggle in this area of the funnel, then you need to go ahead and prioritize that list of 30 questions for the specific interview you have coming up. And you need to get on camera and you need to record yourself
Yes.
doing that. So just by recording yourself and looking at yourself, you'll be able to spot many things. But let me give you like 3 to look for. Number 1, how long was your response? Behavioral interview responses should be about 2 minutes, not 1 minute and not 3. 1 means you're not answering enough detail. 3 minutes means they're going to get bored of listening to you and not follow everything you're saying. The second thing you need to look for is, how is my energy? How is my articulation? So the older you are, the less energy you want to show. The younger you are, the more energy you want to show. So if you're quite old, you don't want to come off like Ankit and I on this video. You want to just be like kind of very executive, very senior. But if you're young, then you actually need to have more energy. You need to start using your hands. You need to start using the whole frame. You need to add some volume at points and then reduce the volume. So you need to adapt to like the right level of energy. And then the third thing is, what is the quality of your response? And so what people miss is that they answer interview questions like a government questionnaire. Here are the facts. You ask me my weakness. You ask me to tell me about yourself. You ask me why Google. I'll give you, the facts. But that the facts, you could imagine that there are a million facts you could choose. Yes. And now you're just choosing on the top of your head some set of facts that you think are most true. I think much better, choose the facts that are going to address your weaknesses. And nobody is honest with themselves about their weaknesses. So I have a coaching call every single day. And I'll ask them, hey, what is your weakness? And almost always they will get their weakness wrong. But when I tell them back their weakness, they don't disagree or argue with me about the weakness. They say, oh my God, I wasn't honest with myself about the weakness. So what is usually the weakness? If you've listened for 26 minutes on this job searching video, you probably have a career break. You were laid off. You were fired. That's your weakness. Hello. That is your weakness. Or you're targeting a company that's paying much better, or you're targeting a company that's bigger. You've been working in startups and now you're going for a large company. Your weakness is that you haven't worked at a large company before. Or you're not a product manager. You're aspiring to be a product manager. That's your weakness. You haven't worked as a product manager before. So these are usually the three biggest weaknesses that people have one of. And so you need to be very honest with yourself. Your weakness is not that you haven't worked in the industry or that you don't understand scale. Like, those are sub weaknesses. I'm talking about real weaknesses. And so in the screener call, it's usually only those weaknesses that get you disqualified. And so coming back to the original question, you have your 30 responses, you're recording your video, you're looking at the content and you're saying, did my answer actively address some of my weaknesses somehow? And so that's how I think you really succeed in the screener call. But I'm curious, what have you found when people are struggling with the screener call? How do you help them improve that?
Yes. I think most of the time the root cause is only one, which is lack of practice. Everyone knows that these are the 15, 20, 30 questions that everyone is asking. But let's say when I ask them the question, so rather than asking, like letting them know what my advice is, I'll just go ahead and ask them the question. Like, what are the three questions that the HR has asked you? And they'll tell me the question. And then I'll give them 5 minutes. And then I'll again go ahead and ask them the same questions. And then after they have completed the answer, I'll tell them that, do you think it could have been better? And then they'll say that it could have been better. I could have said this and said this and said this. And now they know like what the answer is. So most of the time I believe that if you are really serious about the interview, look at your job search and interview preparation part almost as a job, which you have to do, let's say 2-3 hours or maybe 5-15 hours every week to make sure that you are prepared for the same. And understand, first draft is always not going to be good. And also you do not step up to the event or the occasion. You fall down to the level of your practice. So you always have to make sure that you are prepared really well. And I could see that most of the time people know their problems. It's just that they need a reflection from a third party. So that is what I believe in. That and also like bang on that particular fact or the exercise, that make sure that rather than only noting down the answers for yourself, you are practicing. Give yourself 2-3 minutes in order to ask these questions. And also what you can also do is, like, rather than practicing with yourself, go ahead, record 2-3 videos and send it to a peer. It could be a friend, it could be a mentor, it could be maybe your wife or your spouse or your men as well. So you can do that. What happens is that it's not that whether they are going to give you good feedback or not. But when you are sending that video to someone, you will re-record that video 5 or 10 times, because you want to like look good. And this 5 number of times of re-repeating and doing that video will make you like a better person to go ahead and do that. So that is like there is a book known as Mountain Is You. I think that talks about the simple fact that yes, we all know what the answers are, but on that occasion we are not able to play really well because we were limited by the practice.
Yeah, and a lot of people underestimate how quickly they can get better. Basically,
Yes.
we all lack the activation energy to start practicing.
Yes.
Oh my God, I need to create the Zoom link. Then I need to turn on recording.
Yes.
And then I need to go. Whoa, I guess that's only three simple steps that take
Yeah.
less than 15 seconds to get started. So just get yourself started, and you'll be surprised. In 2, 3 iterations, you'll get much better at your responses.
Yes, yes, yes. Interesting. Yes, that definitely works, Akash. And maybe we can do a favor. So, because a lot of people do not have an activation energy, what me and Akash can do is, okay, for let's say people who are watching this podcast, if they record themselves, for the first 5 people who send us their recordings, we should be able to share some kind of maybe written feedback with them. So that should inspire most of you to go ahead and maybe record yourself for the interview, and maybe we'll be able to go ahead and help you out. For the first 5 people, we'll be able to do it for free so that it helps you out and inspire more people in order to do the same.
Amazing. Let's do it.
Yes, coming to like the major part that people have been waiting for, Akash, what are your tips on negotiating the job offer?
Okay, so let's start with the data. Now that we've created this comprehensive data resource for you, you need to go to the granular charts within the data and figure out what is your worth. So you're going to start there with this exercise. What is my worth? And I just went over the relevant factors 25 minutes ago. So years of experience as a product manager, location, industry. These are basically the most important factors. So if you take a look at these, you'll quickly figure out, there's this 25th to 75th percentile band for each of these 4 factors, and you'll write those down next to each other. You'll see 30 to 60, 30 to 45, 40 to 50, and 40 to 52. So what is your band? It's 40 to 45, right? It's like that's kind of the through line through all of those areas. So now you've figured out your worth. Now you look at your compensation or your job offer. You say, okay, this job offer is at 35. I think my worth is 40 to 45. So you're going to ask at the high end of that. You're going to ask for 45. You're going to display the data to people. And ideally, like Ankit mentioned, I know it's very hard in this market, but you're going to time up so you also have offers at that level or at a similar level, or you just have multiple offers. Maybe both offers are 35 and you're looking for 45. So what you then want to do is you want to say, hey, I have this other offer. Here's the market data. And you also want to, before you ever get to the job offer, try to ask them, what percentile in the market do you pay? So that you can refer to how the company thinks about compensation. Maybe they pay 75th percentile, or if they're Google or Meta, they pay basically 100th percentile. Or they're a startup, so you know they're going to pay 25th percentile. So you can then reference that also. And so you put together your whole case, the data, the percentile, the ask, hopefully with another offer. And I generally think that it's actually better to introduce this over the phone. So everybody hates doing that. They want to just send the email because it's easier and you can control the environment. It's actually better to first do it over the phone, then send the email, include as proof the redacted offer, even if it's an email offer from the other company for leverage. And yeah, I think that the data plus the offer, the phone, then the email, if you lead this way, nobody's going to be offended. People are always worried, like, if I negotiate, they might redact the offer. And I totally understand. But if you lead in this way and you don't pressure them, you lead with this information, then they'll usually, at worst, they'll say, we can't do that. You should accept the other offer. But if you still like them, maybe you'll accept anyways. But I would say in recent negotiation and coaching that I've done, 100% of people have seen a revised offer. Sometimes they only revise it a little bit towards the data, but 100% of people I've worked with have seen a revised offer. So
Yes.
that's what I would recommend. What would you say?
Yes, yes, yes. So I think like I also have the similar kind of approach. Just a couple of other points, which is that first of all, your quality of interview is directly proportional to the quality of negotiation that you can do. So that gives you a lot of confidence. The first step is always the same. Make sure that you are like you have a very strong foundational knowledge and on how you give the interview, because if you impress people, then I have seen CEOs and even the bigger hiring managers, they are willing to negotiate with you that yes, if we get this guy, he's going to go ahead and give us a lot of leverage. Okay. And understand, with the report that we have published, there is definitely a room if you're not in the top 100 percentile. Okay. So there is a room, there is a leverage. You have to understand that. And the second part is that also look at the other parts of the package, which is, let's say you are working for a company which is hyper growth and maybe you are talking about base salary, then maybe try to get some kind of equity, some kind of ESOPs, maybe some kind of benefits. Maybe some people are also looking for, let's say, work from home offers, or maybe sometimes you have to go to the office. So make sure that you are balancing the negotiation, not only with like the base part of it, but also some other benefits which are not too obvious. And understand, if you are able to save, let's say, 1 day, 6 days, 6 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours in order to commute and everything, that also like reflects not on your financial health, but also your mental and the physical health. So look at your package at once, and also understand that if you get an offer, it's not only about money. You have to spend like 8 to 10 hours on that job, 5 days a week, even 6 days a week, some period of time. So make sure that you are negotiating everything together, and maybe you'll get a better offer, because mostly HRs are also thinking from one perspective. If you give them more perspective, they'll be willing to negotiate.
Yes. And I would also say, at least for me personally, I always lean towards guaranteed cash compensation. I know that ESOPs, especially if you're working in a public company, seem attractive.
Yes.
But there's just so much variance on where that can turn out for you. So I usually mention, as the person, not as the company, to ask for guaranteed cash. Maybe they'll give it to you in ESOPs, which is a good compromise. So usually start there. Now, let's say they really love you and they can't move on salary. That's another great time to say, hey, maybe one less day from office. Maybe one more week of vacation. Maybe 3 more 6 days. These types of things I think are really good to negotiate after.
Yes.
And it's okay to have multiple rounds of negotiation, but it goes back to your perceived negotiating power, because if you do multiple rounds, you're increasing the risk they withdraw the offer. So another thing I like to do is I like to do negotiations of multiple rounds rapidly. So I like to do them on the phone, even in the same day, with 6-7 phone calls. Recruiter emails me, boom, I hit them on the phone right away. So I think that that is very effective, just so that you don't extend out the negotiation and potentially lose the offer.
Interesting. Yes, I think that's very actionable, Akash. Now let's go ahead and maybe talk about the final question before we could go to the rapid fire, which is that, let's say I was able to get a referral, I got into a company, I got the screening call, I was able to negotiate a good offer. Now let's say what my first 90 days should be looking like, so that I'm able to get that rapid, or let's say the rapid speed in my career, so that I'm able to go ahead and maybe become like a leader as soon as possible.
Yeah, so I think a lot of this depends on your level, but irrespective of your level, let's talk about what real product management is. Real product management is defining the product that you're working on. It's defining the metrics that you're going after, and it's defining the problems you're going to solve to get there. So if you think about these 3 layers, I would say there are a lot of associate product managers and senior product managers, even a few principal product managers, who especially take, for instance, the definition of the product as fixed. So what they'll do is, in their first 90 days, they'll try to create the best strategy for activation, because they were hired for activation. But what is activation? What are the surfaces that are relevant for activation that you should own or be able to ship code in without permission from the team, or with minimal obstruction from the team that actually owns that area of activation? Is activation even the correct area? Are there solutions you can ship? If the company has iterated on onboarding 10 times already, I guarantee you the 11th onboarding test isn't going to get you a promotion.
Yes.
So what areas do you actually think that you should be putting your 70 hours or 50 hours, however intense you are, a week into building, that you actually believe in? So these are the crucial questions to answer in your 90 days. I know everybody here is going to already heard the advice: write a strategy doc, write a roadmap, chuck out most of the backlog that already exists. These are kind of the advice you would get in 1995. I'm saying for 2024, make sure that the area and the best PMs, especially lead and principal level, they change their area after 90 days. They basically say, I investigated all the problems and solutions, and you're dead wrong about 60% of this roadmap. Here's exactly why none of those features will have any impact. I don't actually even know what we should be working on, but I have done some initial investigation. Here are some ideas. Now, you as an executive, you as my boss, you as the CEO, help me choose between which of these you want me to investigate more, and then I'll come back with a plan for that area. So you have to determine your own fate. Like, I had some times where I would be given like a task, like transactional emails. Let me tell you, transactional emails rarely are going to have a huge impact. Just 10% of people, maybe, it could affect max because you have a 50% open rate and a 10% click rate. So you're just going to affect some small percentage of the population. Like, why as a PM should you be working on those? Almost never. Maybe you do, if you do something, it's going to be like a big overhaul. It's not going to be some tiny growth hack. A tiny growth hack is on the main homepage that literally 2 million people see every day. That's where you might want to do that. So just being super realistic about where you can solve problems that are going to move metrics that matter for the business in defining that product area, doing real product management. That's the goal of your 90 days. And so how you get there, you do a lot of data analysis, you do a lot of customer chats, a lot of prospect chats, and you talk to people internally within the company. So I'd recommend you not get caught up in the execution grind of your feature factory in the first 90 days. A lot of people actually give the wrong advice, which is like, get some execution win. Your boss knows some feature that's really good, and then add execution value to that. I say, regardless of your level, do the core real PM work instead.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I completely agree. So I think that's what we have also heard, and that's what we have also suggested, that your brutal honesty with yourself and your company and your customer leads to your empowerment, and then leads to like a better roadmap or a better backlog, and also maybe your own confidence as well. So I think if you are willing to bet on that, and maybe I have also seen that if you are working for a good company, and if you are being honest about what is going to value for the customers and what is not going to value for the customers, I think leaders are going to appreciate that, because if they have been at that particular position, they can maybe as well empathize with you. And also forget about that, as a PM, you always need to have, like, let's say 100% clarity. It's not true. So you have to make sure that yes, you are, but you should be willing to go into the depths of data, the depths of customer insights in order to find out what you need to do. Yes. Yeah. Very interesting.
You're just after 90 days, if you're just endorsing the charter they set out for you, you've basically failed the test. It was like a trick test that they gave you. You have to say, like, I learned these things about why we need to make these changes. That's your charter.
Yes. Correct. Cool, Akash. So Akash, now we'll go ahead and move towards the rapid fire round. Okay. It's not that you have to answer all of them in 20-30 seconds. Take your time. Just that I'll be asking the questions very rapidly. So yes. So first question for you, Akash, is what are the top 3 books that you would recommend for product managers?
So we just talked a little bit about what real product management is. So it's really about the core skills that real product managers need. Number 1, and I can't believe this isn't the case. Like, I worked somewhere at a famous public company where I couldn't talk to customers. If that's the case, you might want to just leave the damn job, because you have to talk to customers every single day. As a writer, it pains me, but I have to talk to you guys every single day also. So read The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick. If you read it 5 years ago, read it again. It literally takes 2 hours to read. It's like 150 pages. Read it tonight. Hello. If you have not read it yet, just read it before bed tonight. It's a very fast read, very fun read. Basically, it explains to you how to do your customer interviews correctly. Because most of you guys are asking questions about your product. I was super nice. Some founder reached out to me yesterday. I just decided to take the call. He's Australian, 9:30 p.m. my time. I don't know why I took the call, because this guy just asked me all these questions about, he was showing me literally like slides and prototypes of his product. Like, this is just useless stuff to do. You can put a prototype in front of them and you can just watch how they use it. You can do that if you want, or you can ask them facts about how they've solved the problem in in the past. And so the mom test will help you do those customer interviews correctly. Second book, Crucial Conversations by Joseph Grenny and his team. Again, same thing. It's literally a 2-hour read. So if you haven't read it yet or you read it a long time ago, just read it now. Because as a PM, I know that all the things I told you about real PM matter, like doing real insights and data, but to actually allow those to be implemented, we know that there are people we need to implement those with: engineers, designers, product marketers, and executives. So you need to have the ability to handle these crucial conversations with them. You know, when they're wrong about what you should be building, when they have analyzed the data incorrectly, when they don't understand some user insight, you might need to have a tough conversation with them. When they spoke up and took over your executive presentation that you needed to handle, you need to have these difficult conversations with people, but they shouldn't be difficult. And the person should come out feeling better about you after them. And so this book is going to help you do that. And then finally is called Trustworthy Online Controlled Experiments by Ron Kohavi. Basically, everybody here who's listening is going to have to do a lot of testing. But I'm telling you, 95% of you are doing that testing incorrectly. There are things around sample ratio mismatch that you're not noticing. There are things around having a good AA test regularly to check for problems that you're not doing. There are things around sample size. There are things around peaking. Peaking is the number one thing product teams do, where they look at the results before they're complete, which actually influences the results. Did you know that? So these are the 3 sort of important advanced skill books that I would recommend.
Interesting. And mom test would have been my first recommendation as well. Thanks a lot for mentioning that. Cool. And then, yes, this one is an interesting question. That what is the worst advice that you think is being given in the PM world right now? Absolutely bad advice.
So I just told you what real product management is and what you should try to do, and you should present that information. At the same time, you should not try to transform your product organization. This is the worst advice being given out there. It's being given out there by all the biggest product management influencers. As an ICPM, I would call this, we should give this a name. Ed Biden at Hustle Badger, he just wrote a LinkedIn post yesterday. I forgot what he called it, but it's something like product overconfidence, or think of it as the Dunning-Kruger effect for product management. If you are not a product leader right now, you do not know the best ways to run a product team. I'm sorry, if you've only done 5 years of PM experience, you don't have it yet. Your boss who has 12 years of product management experience does. And so understanding that these years of experience and becoming a leader matter, and accepting what product management is in your environment, and sculpting your work to meet that environment. Maybe your environment has a 6-month planning period with 7 significant digits impact sizing, and you think that Marty Kagan said you can't start with the solution, and so these people are doing product wrong. No, they're not. And you know what? If you start saying stuff like that, or you start trying to change the environment as an IC, you are eventually going to get pushed out or be viewed as not fitting in with the team environment. It's much better for you to go interview everybody who has been a PM at that company longer than you and say, how do you succeed in the 6-month planning process? What are the mistakes you made in the 6-month planning process? So people who are being told to transform as an IC, it's dead wrong. Now, let's say you've been an IC for 7 years and you're at an offsite and the product leader is asking you, what are some ways we can perform product better? Now, you might be bringing up some of these things at that point, but it's not like you're going to your boss and you're saying, oh, you're asking me to write a detailed PRD. This is not best practice anymore. You got to do those things.
Yes. And also, just to add to that particular point, always whenever someone gives you the advice or when you read about book about something, make sure that you understand the context. The context that they are coming from might be different from your context. So make sure that rather than being portraying yourself as an authority in that phase, be curious. Try to understand that context, dip down, go ahead and maybe ask some questions before you could go ahead and maybe gain that authority. So thanks a lot. I think that was very relevant and I found an insight there. Yes. And yes, this is an interesting one. So what advice would you give to your 25-year-old self? That could be about product, professional, personal, anything.
Yeah, there's really never in the history of humanity been a better time to bet on yourself. It's never been
Yes.
easier with Stripe Atlas and UPI and different things like that to accept payments and set up a business.
Yes.
You would be surprised at people who are applying product thinking to a side hustle and earning more in the side hustle than their job while working on the side hustle for 2 to 3 hours a week.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
it's a fantastic way to improve your product management skill set. So you should really consider it. If you're on paternity leave, if you are an MBA student, if you're a college student, like why are you not out there getting practical experience doing business? And I personally did that when I was an MBA student. I just networked. I thought that that was a valuable use of my time. So I just went to every single freaking social happy hour on campus, and everybody had
Yes.
my phone number, and it was a huge waste of time. I could have bet on myself during the MBA and all those networking times. I could have been working on a business, and I would have been networking with people for real value instead of over beers. So there's never been a better time to bet on yourself.
Yes, I think that's very relevant. And now, as we all know, that failure is a stepping stone to success. So, what is one failure in your life, Akash, that set you up for success later on?
So I first did a product management job, then I started a startup, like I'm doing now, startup. So you can see I cared about startups, and actually, for me, the cool thing to do would have been to start like a $10 billion company. So I tried that. I worked on a startup for 3 years. It failed. We were able to hire like a team, just running break even, so not making any profit, which was fine, but we realized like this isn't going to be a $10 billion business. But that led me into product management. So I'm super grateful for that because, then I said, okay, what am I skilled at besides being a founder? Product manager. Let's go back into product management and product growth. And that led me to where I am today. So what I would say is that you can have a failure on paper, but if you just follow where it lets you go, often it'll teach you things. And as you might expect, like having been a startup founder, I learned a lot about hiring and firing. I learned a lot about finance and accounting. These are things I might not have otherwise learned.
Yes, 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 very relevant. Yes. And now maybe I'll ask you a very, very ordinary question. But a lot of people ask me this question, so I'm going to pass it on to you. What do you think about the future of product management?
Yeah, I think that I could probably spend like 60 minutes just talking about this. So, 60-second version. Number one, I expect product management to still exist 10 to 20 years down the line. Number two, I do expect that the ratio of product managers to engineers to continue to decrease. So I do expect that product managers are going to have to support more engineers. Number three, I do expect a continued flattening of product management hierarchy. So there are going to be less group product managers and less product directors. There's going to be a lot more principal product managers out there. A principal product manager, they're doing a huge impact to the company usually. They're working on a very important product. They're organizing, let's say, 15 engineers and 3 designers and 2 product marketers and an analyst and a user researcher. And they're making sure that there's a high ROI. And so that's why, all put together, I do expect that the role will continue to exist. And in fact, I expect salaries to continue to be where they're at, which is 5 to 10% below engineering, but higher than every other function in tech companies. And finally, I don't expect AI to replace product managers. I expect that every single product manager will use AI in a lot of different ways to make them able to support those more engineers and designers.
Yes, yes, yes. I think that was interesting, and yes, I think I completely agree with the same. And also, first principles also suggest us the same, that as long as customers are going to be an important part of any business, product managers are going to be relevant. Yes, cool, Akash. And now maybe one last personal question from my end, which is, you have written like a lot of blogs and in-depth content around product management. What's your process?
Yeah, so I guess my process has evolved a lot. So I'll just talk about where it is today. So at this point, I have tried to add more science to everything I'm doing at every step in my funnel for creating content. So the first step is like what topics to cover. The second step is how to get either unique data, like in this case, we started off talking about a survey of 1,000 plus PMs of India, or unique theory or unique insight. Maybe I'm collaborating with a guest expert who has spent 15 years in that specific area. So I think about that second. And then what I do is, if I've secured something innovative along an idea that I have prioritized, so about 2 months ago, you and I agreed on a plan to come up with how we're going to get these 1,000 survey results by posting on social media, boom. Then I take on the project. Once I take on the project, I create a Notion page and I just start organizing it. There's almost always a collaborator involved in some way, shape, or form, whether it's an editor or an interview source. I share it with them and then I execute on it. So at any given point, I'm usually working on 7 or 8 collaborations because these collaborations do take about 2 months to deliver, and I'm publishing twice a week. So that's my current process, is to basically make sure that I always have an academic standard where I'm not just regurgitating what Shreyas or Lenny or Marty said, but instead like I'm adding something new to the conversation. So that's my current process.
Yes, and I have seen like your growth in the last, I think, 18 months or so, and like now whatever product manager that I'm talking to, they know about, they have read some or the other kind of content that you have published, so you are making a like an impact at that particular scale. So congratulations on that, Akash.
Thank you. And it's been a pleasure collaborating with you and learning from you how you're running HelloPMs. I feel like it's making a gigantic impact as well.
Yes, great, Akash. So Akash, we look to host you again, and we'll also make sure that whenever we are coming to India, we'll love to host you in person as well, and we'll also bring you like as a guest or maybe as a mentor at HelloPM as well. Thanks a lot for doing that, Akash.
Of course. We'll see you all at the HelloPM Akash events in November 2024.